fast, efficient and affordable business-grade hosting solutions, domain registration, SSL certificates and more. We also monitor and provide website security and update services, website builds, email hosting amongst other sensational products. If you have a question about your web page or your presence on the internet in general, no job is too big or too small. Visit our website today, or better yet, contact us at blueoceanwebhosting.com.au and leave your website issues to us.
Big ones, little ones, fiddly ones, powerful ones, the ones for the car or the truck, caravan, boat, mobility scooter, solar system. In fact, for any kind of battery, go straight to Battery Central Ipswich. They'll even help you when you know what you need to power, but have no idea what'll do the job. Battery Central Ipswich, 280 Brisbane Street, West Ipswich, behind the Yellow Building. Expert advice, better batteries, best prices, every day. That's Battery Central Ipswich.
Welcome to episode 744 of the Aussie Tech Heads. I'm Jason Oakley and this is Will Tompkinson. Hey, Will.
Hey, mate.
How's things going for you?
Honestly, it's been a horrible week for tech for me personally.
Oh, what's going on? Or what's not going on is the question.
What's not going on is more to the point. I've had everything from Wi-Fi networks just disappearing off computers to hardwired networks disappearing off the network to CCTVs disappearing off the hardwired network to the internet not interneting to browsers not browsing. You name it. It's been a horrible tech week this week.
Wow, that's no good.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've got a tablet that we do use our point of sale. Have done for 6 months.
Yep.
It's been our primary point of sale. Been on the Wi-Fi. Nothing's changed. And at least 5 or 6 times a day since Monday, it's literally it's an Android-based tablet. It runs Square and runs Zero, which the two apps that it's all it ever runs on. And it drops the network. Like, it doesn't just drop the network. It actually deletes the network.
Oh.
So instead of going, it just pops up randomly going, can't find Wi-Fi network, and you go scan, and it goes, oh, there's your network. And you go click to join, and it goes, please enter the credentials. So you enter all the information, then 2 hours later it goes, can't find network.
Oh, jeez.
So it's been doing that for the last few days. And then it's never, ever, the entire time, it's been the only thing for the last 6 months that hasn't had any problems. It's worked perfectly.
I hope it doesn't happen in the middle of a sale or something.
That's generally when it happens.
Oh,
it only usually happens when you're using it. It can sit there all night, overnight, and I can be logged into it because I use kind of use it like a touchscreen terminal for keypad for PIN number and stuff, and I've got a PC in front of it that I use for the point of sale stuff, and then I just switch screens to use the tablet to bring up the FPOS.
Yep.
And it can sit there all night perfectly fine, and I come in the morning, it's still logged in, and it works perfectly. Within 10 minutes of being there, it drops off. So there's that, and then I've got hardwired CCTV cameras that are Cat6e cable, and not just Cat6e, it's all Cat6EU, which is all the underground ultra thick cable, the best stuff you can buy, with the gold plated ends, and you know, like it's all braided cable, like it's the best quality stuff you can buy, with a brand new power over Ethernet Cat6e gigabit switch. And it's on its own contained network with a DVR, like a computer set up as a DVR to record all the cameras.
Yep.
And been rock solid for the last 6 months. It's never missed a beat. Now, every 20 minutes, it drops all the cameras.
Oh.
And then...
I think they liked your old shop better. That's the problem.
And then you'll be using the computers, whether they're hardwired or Wi-Fi, and they'll go, internet not found. But the one next to it's still working, and it's hooked up to the same thing. And then the only thing, I have to admit, the only thing that hasn't played up is the phones.
Ah.
And I don't think it's actually the internet playing up, because the phones haven't played up, and normally they're super fussy. The slightest hiccup in the internet, and the phones usually go screwy.
Yeah.
So it's actually, the only thing that's not playing up is the internet, but it's the only thing I can't access. And then today we discovered this really interesting phenomenon in Canary,
Yep.
So if you're a user of Canary, you might have done something like, I don't know, insert web address here, right? And you're going to go, I just need to copy that to do something. We'll just copy that. We'll just copy that address. Apparently not. It's doing that too. Let's go copy. Oh, wait. What?
Install WhatsApp.
Why do I need to install WhatsApp? Oh, okay. Well, I'll just paste that address into here then, shall I? Oh, hang on.
Tweet about WhatsApp.
I need to log into Twitter. And what was the other one it did? Was it cut?
Yeah.
So if we go in here and we go cut, we can go, hey, let's talk about WhatsApp on Facebook. Now, I thought it was an anomaly with the work one, and remember, like, I've been intrigued by this all day.
We spent hours.
Spent hours trying to figure out. I come home, a completely separate system and a completely separate login, not even related to the same. Like this has never been logged in as me. This has only ever been logged in on a different user. It's on a completely separate system and a completely separate network and a separate town, and does exactly the same thing.
Yeah. I had never used Canary, so I wouldn't come across it, but it's weird.
Why WhatsApp? What, like, out of all the possible things,
why does Copy want to install or promote WhatsApp?
Yeah, Copy would take. Well, it would take you to the WhatsApp app if you had it installed.
Yeah.
But because I don't, it takes me to install the WhatsApp. Twitter takes me to tweet about WhatsApp, and the other one takes me to Facebook to post about WhatsApp. I don't understand.
They've done a deal with the Googles to promote WhatsApp on Canary. Maybe somebody has checked something into the Canary code base saying this will help you with a driver or something, and instead did all this WhatsApp stuff.
And there's nothing on the internet about it.
Nobody's talking about it.
And I mean, it can't be just me, surely, because I've had it on. I've actually tried it on a third.
You're the
system.
only person in the world that's actually using Canary. They're building it specifically for you.
That could be what it is. Well, I tried it on our media center as well.
Yep.
Because it runs Canary. Because I use a Canary browser for my own personal login generally. But the one in the media center hasn't been logged in. It's still just the default install from Canary without a user logged in at all.
Yep.
And it does the same thing.
Ah. So there's three.
So there's three Canaries on three separate systems that do it.
Some sort of adware going on there somehow.
It's got to be something in Canary though.
Yeah.
Because the media center is isolated. It's behind a double firewall and not directly connected to the internet. It's indirectly connected to the internet via two routers.
Yep.
So it's not like a virus could just accidentally find its way on there.
Only your three computers got infected.
Mine, I get, okay, because this computer I'm using now, I don't actually run updates or, well, as little as possible, the ones that are forced upon me, but I don't generally run updates, and I don't have virus scanners, and I got Panda, but I don't have anything hardcore on this one. The one at work is fully protected.
Yep.
I
ran the Trend Micro online scanner on that computer, and it didn't find anything, and Windows Defender and antivirus stuff doesn't find anything.
No. So I have no idea what's going on there. So if anyone out there is using Canary, or Chrome Beta, I think they're calling it now. But anyway, Canary, effectively, the yellow icon one.
Yep.
If anybody's using that, let us know, will you? Is it when you go into the address bar and you go to copy or paste or cut, is it doing anything weird for you? Because I have a hard time.
Control, copy, paste, and cut works.
Keyboard shortcuts work.
And if you go to the drop-down menu and use edit, and it's got cut, copy, paste, they work.
Yeah.
But it's only if you right-click with the mouse in the address bar, try copy, paste, or cut.
These ones down here work in this bar over here.
Yeah.
It's literally only in the... And it's only in the... It's not in the search bar. Oh, actually, is it? Hang on, I didn't try it. I wonder, is it in the search bar down here as well? No. Although...
Just what they call the awesome bar these days.
Oh, is it?
At the top. They don't have a URL bar anymore. Everyone calls it like the awesome bar and stuff where you searching and website addresses and everything goes now.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know.
Bizarre.
It's weird. So that's just topped off my fantastic tech week. It's just been absolutely horrible. Oh,
And then you can't hear this show because our technology's not working.
The other thing was Afterpay. Trying to set up Afterpay. That has been a week of struggle. Man, because they've gone Afterpay card now and it uses Google Pay, so it treats it like a credit card.
Right.
But you've still got to authorise Afterpay. But they've taken the standard authorization that we used to be able to do manual entry. You're not allowed to do that on the back end anymore.
Oh.
So you've either got to have the API for the website, which we'll need to install for the store. If you've got a store, you need to install the API, which I get. But then when you're in store, you can't. You used to be able to go into the back end and make a sale, and you could accept the sale from the app.
Yep.
But the app now only works, and it doesn't work on my phone because my phone doesn't have a NFC chip in it. And so the app won't work because the app needs NFC because it's using it as a digital card like through Google Pay or through Apple Pay. So even though I can use NFC on my watch, which supports Google Pay, and I can tap with that, I can't install WhatsApp. Bloody WhatsApp. I got WhatsApp on the mind. I can't install Afterpay on my Google Pay because you've got to create a link from the app to create the virtual card to connect to Google Pay. But Google Pay my phone supports Google Pay, but doesn't support Afterpay, and my phone doesn't have an NFC, so it won't let me create the card.
Wow.
It's like, for shit's sake.
Did they make it more complicated just for you?
I'm thinking so, because like a month ago it wasn't this hard.
Yeah.
Well, they waited till we wanted to sign up for it. But anyway, so we've got Afterpay sorted, so we accept Afterpay now.
Hooray.
BatteryCentralIpswich.com.au. The shop's not up yet, will be soon. We've almost got done, but we support Afterpay, so that's good. We support it in store as well now. So it's finally, after dicking around, got that work. And then we get a Aussie Tech Heads group chat gets a message today. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. I can't find the message. About the RSS feeds not working in their podcast client. And the last 2 weeks they've had to watch it on YouTube.
Oh, no.
I feel so
sorry
for
about that. Many apologies.
But the general consensus for that one, it does happen occasionally. RSS feeds are literally a text file, and they can just go screwy occasionally. The best way to solve that is to unfollow the feed and then refollow again, and it'll rewrite that file. Make sure you refollow it, because if you don't, it won't work at all, which, depending on who you are, you might just want to unfollow it and be done with it. You know? But so that will solve that problem generally. Unfollow, refollow the feed. Some, depending on the client you're using, some give you a refresh option where it refreshes the feed link. But quite often unfollowing it it'll delete the link, so if it's slightly corrupted, it'll fix the problem. So we'll save you from the gory details of having to watch us on YouTube.
Yeah.
So all in all, tech's been horrible this week.
Man, I've been trying out Windows 11 and having a ball of a time. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I can't run Windows 11 because it slows my computer down by like 25%.
Yeah.
Because I've got an AMD chipset.
Sad wheel noises. Goes great on my Intel i7, and I dual boot it because I had a NVMe M2 hard drive that didn't have that much on it, so I moved that to one of the other drives, and then set up Windows 11 and the dual boot on that one, and it does it all for you. When you've finished rebooting all the things, it just goes, oh, we noticed that you got Windows 10 here, so you can click that one or click Windows 11, whichever you want. You can set it up in the config to automatically start Windows 11 after 5 seconds or 3 seconds or whatever you like. But when you hit Windows 11 to start it, 3 seconds later, you can log in. It's got the login box. You type that in, And then, like with the old Windows 10 and others, you would still have to wait while it's loading up all the icons and all the drivers and stuff in the background. No, with this one, straight away it's there. And I also like that they got the direct storage technology that they created for Xbox to make seamless loading of game assets and stuff is coming to Windows 11 soon, and should make open world games a lot better because they won't have to stop the game and put up loading screen and then have those silly tips like the best way to not die is to keep your hit points above 0 points and helpful hints like that. So everything will be a lot faster, but it's not just something that'll just start working. The developers have to actually program in their system to be able to use it. But basically, instead of all of the data coming through one pipeline, it opens up parallel pipelines, and the data just sucks straight into the computer and right up to the graphics chip straight away. So very fast and easy. They've got high dynamic range is built into it, so some games can turn that on, but you can turn that off with a keyboard shortcut anyway. So I just like the style of it, the layout, everything I've tried works. I've got some old stuff from Windows XP days and Windows, all the older Windows 8 and 7 and stuff still working on here. Latest drivers are still coming out for my graphics card and chipset and stuff. The only thing
Hey friends,
that went
I'm
really
Scott.
slow
A
before I
developer's
updated
look
the
at
motherboard
Windows 11,
chipset
specifically WS.
Sorry.
drivers was Facebook in the
Okay.
browser. Go to facebook.com, it'll load up all the text on the page and then sit there for like 5 minutes trying to load graphics for some reason. Maybe it needs graphics acceleration added on the chipset or something. They'd had the graphics driver for the NVIDIA card, so that was fine. So in the end, I just downloaded all the motherboard drivers for my motherboard, which was a bit out of date. They're still only for Windows 10, but it works fine on Windows 11. Suddenly everything's blitzing fast.
Try trying to use hardware acceleration by default on the browser. So I've seen
So
that
it
happen.
enabled itself after I put the chipset drivers on.
No, a lot of the time the browsers by default try to use hardware acceleration, and a lot of the time that slows things up. In my browsers, I actually turn it off. I find it runs faster with it off.
Yeah, yeah.
But this was something neat you're talking about, that generic by default just handles Linux.
Yes, yeah.
You just literally tell it to
It's
install
it's
whatever.
all.
And,
You would think it was native.
yeah. Yeah.
The YouTube video, the guy even has a Rick Roll video with Rick Astley that he tests, and it just pops up in a video window. It just looks like it's part of Windows. It's a Windows app playing video, but it's not. It's actually MPV, which is a media player for video on Linux, and that just starts up and starts it in a window. The other thing he was showing there is he installs a GUI app called Giggle, which would launch in X Windows. And once the app is installed on his Debian, through Windows Terminal does all of this stuff. Windows 11 creates a shortcut to it on your taskbar and your start bar, or just the start bar, sorry. So you can just click on the Giggle icon. It'll launch a virtual Linux in the background where it was installed, but you won't see that. It'll just look like this Giggle application is running on Windows. You can just launch it straight from your Windows start menu.
And you can explore the file system natively.
Yeah, you can go to the C drive from Linux, or you can go to the Linux drive from Windows, and they all appear there. There's a little on your networking down the bottom. There's an icon called Linux, and you can have multiple distros installed. You can have multiple distros installed and running at the same time. So he splits up into the terminal into 4 separate windows, runs Ubuntu here, a different version of Ubuntu, and down here runs Debian, a different version of Debian. They're all running at the same time, no slowdowns or anything. And the way you install it is just WSL dash dash install, and then type in Debian or your specific version of whichever Linux distro you're using, and it just grabs all the packages, downloads them, installs them, and starts it up. It's fantastic.
Sounds, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like running in the old days, used to run Wine or used to run whatever, but it was always obvious it was an emulator because, you know, you'd always have to set up hardware exceptions like through passes for network cards and sound card drivers and stuff, but it's
It's on
literally
VMware,
yeah,
VMware Player,
and
or
it was always noticeable. You know, it was always slower. Like you knew that you're using an emulator, even if it was fairly good. But from what I can tell from watching these videos, that runs, from what I can see, at effectively the same speed it would run as if it was native.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
just got a virtual Linux distro running in the background that you don't see, or you can see if you want to. You just open the terminal, bang, you're there.
I mean, given
But,
that effectively Windows is running on a Linux backend anyway, you wouldn't think it's
too.
You wouldn't think it's that much of a stretch to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny, all these years of them shunning Linux as the bad guy.
Yeah. Since Satya Nadella came in, he's like, why don't we embrace this stuff? Because Windows 11, an update is going to come out soon that will let you run Android apps native.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nice.
So you can run Linux stuff on those virtualized systems that look native, and you'll be able to run all the Android apps native as well.
Because all Apple users know that, you know, all your iPhone stuff runs natively on your Apple. Oh, wait. No, because that'll be the same company working with the same company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how that'd be a problem.
Actually, that was can segue into my first story, which is about that case, anyway.
I better do this.
For years now, Windows 10's Windows subsystem for Linux has been making life easier for developers, sysadmins, and hobbyists who have one foot in the Windows world and one foot in the Linux world. But WSL, handy as it is, has been hobbled by several things it could not do. Installing WSL has never been as easy as it should be, and getting graphical apps to work has historically been possible, but also a pain in the butt that required some fairly obscure third-party software. Windows 11 finally fixes both these problems. The Windows subsystem for Linux isn't perfect on Windows 11, but it's a huge improvement over what came before. Microsoft has traditionally made installing WSL more of a hassle than it should be, but the company finally got the process right in Windows 10 Build 2004. Just open an elevated command prompt, type WSL-install at the prompt, and you're good to go. Windows 11, thankfully, carries this process forward unchanged. A simple WSL install with no further arguments gets you Hyper-V and other underpinnings of WSL, along with the current version of Ubuntu. If you aren't an Ubuntu fan, you can see what other easily installable distros are available with the command WSL-list-online. If you decide you prefer a different distro, you can install it with, for example, OpenSUSE-42. If you're not sure which distribution you prefer, don't fret. You can install as many as you like simply by repeating the list to enumerate your options and install a distro to install whichever one you like. Installing a second distribution doesn't uninstall the first, it creates a separate environment independent of any others. You can run as many of these installed environments as you like simultaneously without fear of one messing up another. In addition to easy installation, WSL on Windows 11 brings support for both graphics and audio in WSL apps. This isn't exactly a first. Microsoft debuted WSLG in April with Windows 10 Insider build 21.364, but Windows 11 is the first production Windows built with WSLG support. If it is your first time hearing of WSLG, the short version is simple. You can install GUI apps, for example, Firefox, from your Ubuntu or other distro command line, and they work exactly as expected, including sound. When WSLG was installed on Windows on the Framework laptop, running Firefox from Ubuntu terminal popped up the iconic browser automatically. Heading to YouTube in it worked perfectly too, and neither frame drops in the video nor glitches in the audio. And Microsoft has announced the new WSL features will be even easier to get in the future. The company has posted a preview version of WSL to the Microsoft Store so that Windows 11 can download and update WSL independently of other Windows updates. Many of Windows built-in apps have already moved to being updated through the Microsoft Store rather than through regular Windows updates. This gives the company more flexibility when deciding when to update apps. Though one side effect has been that many Windows 11 pre-installed apps still haven't been fully updated for Windows 11. But long term, it means you don't have to wait for a new Windows update to benefit from updated apps. Separate it all, Mr. T would be happy because he doesn't have to update his Windows to update the apps.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad thing. I tell you what, they definitely have looked like they've worked on the backwards compatibility a lot more in 11 than they have in previous operating systems.
Yeah, the interoperability between them as well.
Because that's always been an issue. Like, part of the reason I've never switched to Linux is because there's a couple of programs that up until a few months ago never worked on Linux, they now do. And I've thought about swapping over, except it's been a hassle because I've got so much stuff in the Windows ecosystem.
Yep.
But, and like, I've got a couple of systems I'm still running Windows XP on just because the drivers and that program won't run on newer versions of Windows. But apparently, when you do XP compatibility mode in 11, it actually is literally XP. It thinks it's running under XP, whereas in Windows 10, it's just sort of trying its best to make it work.
Yep.
Something
a friend of mine from work pointed out, there's a website, protondb.com, and because Steam is getting a lot of people to make Linux versions of their games so that it can run on their Valve hardware, like their Steam device that looks like a Nintendo Switch. ProtonDB.com lists all the games that are available, how well they work on Linux devices, on Linux distros, and tells you any problems. So you can see like Counter-Strike Global Offensive is all green. Dota 2 is green. There's a few problems with PUB and Apex Legends. Team Fortress 2 seems to be pretty good. So people can report there what they've tried it on, and you'll know that it's going to work on your Linux.
Witcher and
all
sorts of stuff going on there. Age of Empires, Skyrim, Hitman, Mordor, Fallout, Sonic, Deus Ex, all the good games.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool because that's been, for somebody who's got, what have I got, over 1,100 games or something in Steam. That's has been one of the issues with swapping to Linux is almost all of those games aren't available on Linux.
Yeah.
But that is to say that's in the process of changing now. And theoretically, and this has always been my issue with Linux, by rights, stuff should be running so much faster in Linux than it should be in Windows games. But because a lot of the chipset manufacturers refuse to release their source code
for the drivers and stuff.
For the drivers and whatever, they've always had to hack together drivers, and they've just never worked as good as they should.
Or count on John Smith when he gets around to doing a driver for your particular sound card or graphics card, because he's the only one who supports that range because it's some obscure thing.
That's it. Or as I was saying to Warlock earlier today, that I found my old CD from back in like 2000-ish when we were creating a Linux-based Quake server.
Yep.
Because Duke Nukem 3D and Quake multiplayer at the time was the biggest sort of games around. It's like the equivalent of well, I guess I don't know what would be Counter-Strike maybe. I don't know, but sort of the equivalent in terms of it was one of the biggest ones, and we wanted to run a Linux server because the Windows servers at the time maxing out what was available as a PC. You could only get 4 or 5 players, maybe 10 players if you had a really good connection.
Yeah.
But we ran the numbers, and under Linux, we could put 100 players on the same server. And we're running, as part of the computer store I was running it, we were running some game servers. Yep. So we're obviously trying to maximize our ability to have more people connected to one server because it's cheaper to run.
Yep.
And after many late nights and many cans of what was it
Jolt.
back then? No, I wish. No, I think we were drinking Speed. Back then, there was an energy drink called Speed. We were addicted to Speed. Like literally, like we'd drink like a crate a day,
Oh, geez.
a box a day. It was bad.
How's your heart still going?
Yeah, lucky I was young. My heart just palpitates thinking about it now.
Wasn't he the guy from Star Wars?
But yeah.
Senator palpitates with the lightning coming out his fingers, right?
But yeah, and we spent hours and hours and hours late, all sorts of late nights getting that up and running, and we eventually did and ended up selling it to somebody else because we ended up getting out of that side of it after years. But yeah, I know how painful setting up something to run under Linux can be. That's not, theoretically should be really, really good, but in reality, it was incredibly painful to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this gives you the best of both worlds because you can attack it from two different angles at the same time.
Yeah, well, a lot of people on my team doing the same job as me. They have virtual installs of Ubuntu. Well, work uses CentOS, but there can be some Ubuntu and stuff locally and run all the commands there. They wouldn't need to run the VMware and all this sort of stuff now because they could just open up their terminal and they've already got access to everything.
Yeah.
I SSH to the servers, 3 SSH connections to 3 different servers. I don't keep anything locally. I could because I got work to get me a MacBook and as you said before, it's virtually Linux underneath anyway. So I could just run everything from there, but I just find it easy to start off iTerm2 and it auto connects and logs into the servers I want to use. And I can do everything. My internet is gigabit anyway, so it's fast to the US, even through the VPN, and everything just works well.
I think one thing that will come out of this is support centers will have a different modality of support, whereas before it was all done via scripts and the better text ran off memory a lot of the time. They didn't have the OS in front of them. They're just trying to remember how to walk through the steps.
Yeah.
But now with the ability to run Windows and run Red Hat and run Ubuntu and run Citrix and run all these other variants either simultaneously or at least very, very quickly, you could boot them and launch them.
Yeah.
I think the cross-platform multi-support sort of aspect of that will be beneficial. You have one tech can have 20 different variants.
Yeah, on the one thing.
As a reference point.
And you don't have to dual boot or any of this other crap as well.
They're still in Windows. They're still running their normal connection session with you via Windows. And then they just load up whatever Linux they need under that,
It's just going to make Windows more popular.
Yeah, and without running it in a virtual terminal, there's no stupid mucking around setting up like you got to do in a VMware to make it work. All the allocations you've got to do, and then the memory hog part of it from being a VM and the CPU over usage, and so the fact that
driver issues,
the fact that it just works, it's going to be fantastic. I can see it. This is as much as I'm not a Windows fan generally, and I'm not a Linux fanboy by any stretch of imagination, but I just don't. I've never been much for Windows in terms of Microsoft themselves more so than Windows, but I think this is really something that's been very, very overdue in what they've done. But I think they might have actually, for the most part anyway, there's definitely some things in there that still need tweaking, but for the most part, I think this time it actually is what they've delivered more than they've promised.
Yeah.
Whereas traditionally it's the other way around. They promise 47 new items and they give you 3.
Yeah, heading in the right direction.
So, have we had word yet whether it's a free update or whether it's a paid update? Or it'd be a paid update, surely.
What's that for?
The new Windows 11.
Mine wasn't.
Yeah, but it's still kind of in beta, and like it's not actually officially released.
This is
yet.
like out, and
is it?
when I installed it for dual boot, it came up, this is not activated. So I clicked on activate, and it said, do you have existing install? I think, or something like that. I hit yes, and it said, oh, we found Windows 10 on your computer. Do you want to use the product code for that for Windows 11? I
Okay.
go yes. It goes activated.
So if it's an upgrade, it would be a free upgrade. Otherwise, it's going to
Yeah,
be
over the top. Yeah,
a paid OEM. Otherwise,
yeah.
I'd
If you
say.
wanted to get it a new install or something like that, you would have to get an OEM copy and
Yeah.
install it from there. But if you've already got Windows 10 on there, you can dual boot or you can install over the top of Windows 10. I wanted to make sure everything I've got is supported and all the programs I use all the time were working fine, since
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh no, it only just came out on Tuesday. You don't want to go installing it because it'll probably crash or your Windows not going to work, or it won't work with drivers. Microsoft, ha ha ha, wait for the Service Pack 1. I was like, well, if I can dual boot it, doesn't matter if Windows 11 crashes and burns and doesn't work. I've still got Windows 10 and I can try out Windows 11 again later. But I've only gone back to Windows 10 to find out what apps I was using and where they were installed and where the data was, and then jump into Windows 11 and put all that stuff on there. So I've got the same setup. But I like clean installs anyway, so I'd prefer Windows 11 on a fresh install on a different drive than overwriting Windows 10.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what my thought process was. I'm never an early adopter.
I basically did it so I could talk about it on this show.
I'm never an early adopter in terms of like doing it for the sake of doing it. Especially if it's something like on a work process machine or something where it's workflow is critical. I can't really afford to have a machine down for 3 days.
Yeah.
If it's something like I'm mucking around on a computer and I upgrade, one of my old computers or whatever, that's fine. But I usually like to wait 3 to 6 months before they've got usually their first major update patch out, and that fixes a lot of the early issues. And it's the same with well, yeah. I mean, it's the same with like GoPros, for example. The new GoPro 7 Black or whatever it is out, and there's so many people complaining about it. I'm like, yeah, but it's literally just come out. Every single GoPro that's just come out is crap. Yeah. It takes 6 months for them to get the updates out to make it a stable platform. I'm like, this has literally been happening for like 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. Like, it's the same thing every time they release a new one.
You should know this.
Haven't you figured it out yet? Don't buy it when it first comes out. Wait 6 months till all the bugs are worked out of it. Then buy it, update the firmware, and it'll be fine.
The only one bugbear that I had with Windows 11 install, I bought a new computer that I was going to turn into my Linux server in the lounge room, but my daughter's got a friend who's coming to visit, so I ended up putting I didn't order a graphics card with the computer. I got integrated GPU. But I had my daughter's old graphics card in the cupboard here, so I put that in, and I thought, okay, this is going to be the first computer I'll install Windows 11 on, just so I can test it out. So I downloaded the boot onto a USB, plugged it into the computer, started up, starts copying all the files across, and then it goes, sorry, Windows 11 can't be installed on this computer. Now, that's fine, but why?
Yeah.
The TPM chip was enabled in the firmware, and I checked all of that, and it's running the secure boot and all of these things, but it just says, sorry, you can't install it. And I don't know why. I ended up putting Windows 10 on there, and I could go in there now and run the PC health check, and that would tell me. But I don't want to install Windows 10 to download PC Health Check to run it to see if I can put Windows 11 to wipe it off, fix the thing, and install Windows 11.
But not only that, why let me go to all the trouble of downloading it, installing it, and start to install it, then tell me you can't do it? Why isn't that the very first thing that it does?
When it boots up, it says, check, these are not there.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. No. Like, I never said they were good. That's what I mean. They always manage to do something stupid.
Yeah.
And I
can't think of what else. It's a new CPU, new motherboard, new everything in there.
It's an older graphics card, but you wouldn't think that'd matter.
No, that doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I don't know, but I remember having that issue with was it when Windows XP come out?
Yep.
We were doing rollouts of XP, and randomly all the we had a lot of business customers, so we had a lot of IBM ThinkPads and that sort of stuff. And you could have exactly the same spec ThinkPad, same year, same model number, same processor, same memory, same everything. One would install Windows XP, and the one next to it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, they're literally exactly the same system. And what we ended up doing was we just pulled one of the drives, cloned it, and then every time we got one of those laptops, and we just put the clone partition back on. And it worked perfectly fine. But it wouldn't let us install it on the same laptop. And it's like, huh?
What?
It didn't say why it wouldn't install. It just wouldn't install. It just hang the install.
Yeah.
But if you put Windows XP on there, cloned it on, it was perfectly fine.
Yeah. Doesn't make sense.
So it's something that's not a new issue. That's something that's been.
You think
an issue for a
Microsoft
while.
would have ironed it out by now?
I mean, in the scheme of things, it's a relatively small issue, but still. And I guess
There's any Microsoft techs who listen to our show, and we know you're out there.
Right.
This is their top one streaming from Microsoft.com, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I get, and I think I read statistically somewhere that like 95% of Windows installs is actually updates, like you're upgrading operating system. Even most people who buy a new computer, they get their old hard drive cloned, or they keep their old hard drive, and then the new Windows gets installed on top of that anyway. So an actual virgin install of Windows is actually quite a rare thing, apparently.
Yeah.
So it's probably not that really thoroughly tested, because not that many people do it.
All the OEMs would have already worked around it, building up new computers. I got a ad this week in the email, of course, from PLE Computers, where I buy all my stuff from. And they said Windows 11 ready computers are all coming out now with Windows 11 installed on it.
Do you remember when all the Windows 2000 and Windows XP compatible computers come out like 3 years before the operating system launched?
Yeah.
And by the time the operating system launched, they weren't compatible because they were too old.
Yeah. But it was compatible at the time we made it.
When they first talked about it, it was compatible. That was the biggest scam, that.
Yeah.
Let's just get let's say this is Windows NT ready, or Windows 2000 ready, and it's like,
People will buy it. I saw an interesting tweet this week you can find on Twitter about one of the guys who worked on the original Xbox team that created the first Xbox. And Microsoft had been working for months and months with AMD to set up Xbox, and they were running virtual machines to test Xbox on all these machines and stuff. And then they were having the launch day, and Bill Gates goes up on stage, and all the front row is all AMD staff. Yeah, we're going to see Xbox running on AMD. And he said, we'd like to announce the new Intel Xbox. It's going to run only Intel chips. Everyone in the front row was like,
huh?
What? We just spent months working with you to get the Xbox working, and now what? So this guy has apologized officially for screwing them over at the last second, and they didn't know, and he said he didn't really know what was going on. It was Bill who came out and announced it.
That's why when the Xbox launched, there was only like 4 games. Because that all had to be rewritten. But PlayStation 2 did a similar thing, because they released it and went, oh, hang on a minute. Those handful that are out in the wild, they've got to be returned, and we're going to release them with a different chipset. Exactly the same thing happened. They had a chip in there that they didn't actually have the rights to produce, apparently, or something like that. I can't remember. It was a while ago. And then, they went, oh, hang on, we just got to rewrite all these games. Just give us a couple of months. So, I think
hopefully it didn't hurt too many sales.
No, well, but here's the dumb part. They got hindered so badly because at the time they come out, that was about the same time as the Dreamcast come out and the GameCube. And the Dreamcast and the GameCube didn't have any of those sort of problems and died in the ass 3 months after being released. But the Xbox and the PlayStation that had all these massive issues continued. Like, How
Everybody
that
knows
makes-
about the red ring of death
Yeah, the Sega
and the
Sat-
power supplies that would
Oh.
overheat on the Xbox.
yeah, and the CD-ROMs that had just stopped working.
Yeah.
You know, but then you had the Sega Saturns, which had no issues at all, as far as I'm aware. The GameCube, which I remember using the GameCube and it was fine. And then the Dreamcast was the most awesome machine out at the time.
Yeah.
And those three just disappeared off the face of the earth, and somehow the PlayStation and the Xbox survived.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. You know, especially Sony PlayStation. Like, what does Sony have to do with games? Like,
Yeah.
you know, all the other ones are at least gaming companies.
Yeah.
No, it's bizarre. Speaking of things that are bizarre.
Me.
Speaking of other things that are bizarre, FBI arrests engineers for selling nuclear warship data hidden in peanut butter sandwiches.
Oh no, peanut butter sandwiches.
Peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly. Anyway, enough of that. The FBI and Naval Criminal Investigation Service, or the NCIS if you've ever watched a TV show, has arrested an engineer and a wife for trying to sell confidential military data. On Sunday, the U.S. Department of Justice, or the DOJ, if you've ever watched Beverly Hills Cop, DOJOBOLLMNLP. What was he? The alphabet director or whatever he was called. Named Jonathan and Diana Toubé of Annapolis. 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 Maryland, as the suspects in a plot to sell information to a foreign government. According to the complaint, for close to a year, Jonathan, with the assistance of his wife, attempted to sell restricted class data in exchange for cryptocurrency. Jonathan served as a nuclear engineer for U.S. Navy. During his time with the Navy, the 42-year-old worked on the Naval Nuclear Propulsion Program and had secured a high-level national security clearance. Toubé worked with and had access to information concealing naval nuclear propulsion, including information related to military-sensitive design elements, operational parameters, performance characteristics of reactors for nuclear power warships. On April 1st, 2020, Jonathan allegedly sent a sample pack of information relating to the nuclear program to an unnamed foreign government, together with a letter that allegedly read, because you can allegedly read a letter, you either have it or you don't, but anyway. I apologize for the poor translation into your language. Please forward this letter to your military intelligence agency. I believe this information will be of great value to your nation. This is not a hoax. The DOJ has accused the engineer of then forming a relationship over email with someone he believed was part of the government. Proton mail was used back and forth exchanges over the course. I love the name dropping. Was used for back and forth exchanges over the course of several months, and the names Alice and Bob. By June 8th, the contactee had sent to a $10,000 payment in Monero cryptocurrency in good faith. And several weeks later, the engineer allegedly acted. So I'm just going to skip all that stuff. So they then copied all the information to a SD storage card. They sent the SD card to an undercover FBI agent who sent them a further $20,000 in crypto. Then they emailed them the encryption key. The FBI was then able to verify the legitimacy of the data and agreed for the price of $70,000. This time, Toubé smuggled the SD card into a chewing gum package. Among the stolen data was schematics for the Virginia-class submarine, the $3 billion design of vehicle, which was to remain classified until at least 2060. Well, not anymore. It was almost time for law enforcement act, so they arranged for yet another package data to be exchanged, and the next drop zone the pair were arrested. They were due to appear in the West Virginia Federal Court, face accusations of conspiracy to commit a restricted data and communicating restricted data as violations of the Atomic Energy Act. Really? That's what they got them with? So I have a question.
Mm.
Where does the peanut butter sandwich come in?
They didn't mention it. Uh,
They talked about chewing gum
yeah,
and SD cards.
yeah. No sandwich. I am disappointed.
Oh, wait, hang on. It's hidden in another part of the article. The husband and wife travelled to West Virginia to an agreed drop location. While Diana assumed the role of lookout, Jonathan then placed half a peanut butter sandwich at the drop site, and contained was the SD storage card containing the data. It wasn't even a full sandwich.
You know what it
Half
reminds
a
me of?
sandwich.
It's a really good movie I saw recently with Benedict Cumberbatch called The Courier.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome
Yeah.
story.
I still haven't watched that. I did watch a preview the other night, though.
Oh man, I was telling Dad all about it and got him to watch it, and I'm like, this is just great.
Yeah, it looks really good. I'll have to watch that soon.
Really good story about the Cuba crisis and Russia and this guy who was just a salesman, a really good salesman in a company that he started over in the UK, and they wanted to get information smuggled out of Russia, so they got him to open a branch in Russia and go and meet people over there, and he started smuggling stuff out and find out what happens.
The true story of a British businessman unwittingly recruited into one of the greatest international conflicts in history, forming an unlikely partnership with a Soviet official hoping to prevent a nuclear confrontation. The two men worked together to provide the crucial intelligence used to defuse the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yep.
Box office 22.6 million. It's only been out since March.
Based on real story. Yep.
No,
It's
it
well
is,
worth a watch.
although according to Rotten Tomatoes, it's only like 70%.
Yeah, stuff them.
I know, right? I don't,
They said the Surrogates movie was crap, like 30% or something.
Yeah.
I like that one.
yeah, I don't put much faith in Rotten Tomatoes.
No.
Although, wait, what was the wasn't that Green Tomatoes? What was the operating
Fried-
system for routers and stuff?
Hmm?
What's the operating system for routers and hubs and stuff? That's something tomatoes, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I mean, Fried Green Tomatoes is a movie.
That's what I was thinking. He's
It's
going
also
for
actually not half
Fried
bad if you've
Green
ever had it.
Tomato.
I don't mind it actually. But I'm sure there's a router operating system, something tomatoes or tomato. Was it just these? I remember back when Duke Nukem was a thing. All our motherboards were tomato brand motherboards
Oh, okay.
because they gave away a copy of Duke Nukem when you bought the motherboard. So all my friends had to upgrade their computers anyway, and they had to buy a copy of Duke anyway. So we just bought tomato motherboards and killed two birds with one stone.
Yeah, it just says tomato firmware.
Tomato, yeah, okay, it's just tomato. Yeah, see, I'm not entirely mad.
Not completely yet.
Not yet. I'm working on it though.
TSMC, the world's largest contract chip maker, and Sony are considering a joint construction of a semiconductor facility in Western Japan amid a global chip shortage. The total investment in the project is estimated at 800 billion yen, which is $7 billion, with the Japanese government expected to provide up to half that amount. Japan's top auto parts maker Denso is also looking to participate through such steps as setting up equipment at the site. The Toyota Motor Group member seeks stable supplies of chips used in its auto parts. Sony may also take a minority stake in a new company that will manage the factory, which will be located in the Kumamoto Prefecture on land owned by Sony and in an area adjacent to the latter's image sensor factory, according to multiple people. The factory will make semiconductors using camera image sensors as well as chips for automobiles and other products, and is slated to go into operation by 2024. Plans for the facility, which would be TSMC's first chip production operation in Japan, come as the global tech industry grapples with unprecedented semiconductor shortages and supply chain disruptions. The Japanese government, which is increasingly concerned about maintaining supply chain stability amid the chip shortage and rising tensions surrounding the Taiwan Strait, will support the project with subsidies. In exchange for subsidies, the government will seek a commitment that chip suppliers to the Japanese market will take priority.
I was just reading in this other article I'm looking at here on 9 to 5 Mac that the TMSC or whatever they are, that part of it is known for making a lot of Apple chips in their factory they've currently got.
Yep.
But apparently in this one they won't be making them.
All right.
So
your PlayStation will be right because Sony's there.
Assuming they decide to keep the same chips, yeah. But yeah, so apparently to add to the mess, the US does not formally recognize Taiwan as a country. But the Taiwan Relationships Act of US law does require it to help Taiwan defend itself. So they don't recognize them as the country, but they have to defend them if they go to war.
Yeah, sounds good.
That sounds exactly like something America would do. Oh, man. Yeah, no, I guess that's kind of the next leap in advanced production facilities, isn't it? I mean, you're getting more processor heavy builds being completed every day, whether it's new cars, whether it's computers, whether it's just technology in general. Everything's getting more and more chip hungry. So
yep.
I realize there's an artificial crisis, but that's not necessary. I mean, I remember back in the day when I was at school, red LEDs were sort of fairly new.
Yep.
And they're quite expensive. Like a little red LED at the time, to buy from Tandy, back when Tandy was a thing, were a couple of dollars each.
Yeah.
Now you can buy a box of 1,000 for a few cents, but
took them forever to get blue to work as well.
Yeah, blue and green, or they're low, different voltages and wavelengths, and that's a whole other story, and clear ones. But yeah, blue were the primary ones. The red were the primary ones. I think green were the secondary ones. They were the next easiest one to make, and they were expensive. And then when I was at school, we were told that we had to reuse. Like, we used to make electronic projects on a breadboard, and you'd just make them, little radios and little flashing lights and whatever. But halfway through the year, we had to start reusing LEDs because LED demand was outstripping supply, because at the time there was only like 3 factories in the world making LEDs.
Right.
And suddenly all these people were discovering new uses for them, and LEDs went from being really expensive to really, really, really expensive for a while because demand was outstripping supply.
Yep.
But now they've become one of the most ubiquitous components.
Christmas lights.
Well, everything. Your monitor, your lighting, and all my lights are all LED.
A mouse.
Your backlight on your phone. Just about everything you can think of almost these days has LEDs in it.
Yep.
And so that's the same thing with chips. They've gone from being something that's necessary to make it, like, they started off making silicon chips to replace transistors and valves and stuff just out of simplicity. Then they started adding chips to chips for simplicity. Then they started making processors, which is chips on chips on chips on chips, for convenience and for speed and for power reduction.
System on a chip.
And then, that's what I was going to say. Then they sort of went to system on chips, which whole entire computers, whether it's a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino or a credit card board or whatever. You got all that complexity, and then now you've got multiple capability chips. Like, you've got CPU chips that are also GPU chips. They're all combined together, and they're getting more and more ubiquitous. A mobile phone used to have whatever bulk supply of CPUs was laying around, and whatever bulk supply of GPUs was laying around, they throw it on a phone and go, "Hey, it's our new phone."
Yep.
But now they're making chips specifically for mobile devices. So there was an artificial shortage of chips started last year, but it was going to be a natural progression. You look at Tesla's just opened up like 5 mega factories. Well, suddenly they've got 5 times, well, more, because the factories are actually running faster. They've got 7 or 8 times the production of vehicles coming out, which means 7 or 8 times more chips required. And if the system was only just coping before, it's not going to be coping now. So
No.
this was sort of the next. This is like the whole when Japan did the thing and they went from, there's a period where you wouldn't touch anything that came out of Japan.
Yep.
And then they suddenly became, especially in the late 70s to sort of even really up into the early 90s, that was the place where you wanted your stuff produced. Because they had the technology, they had the ability, they had the quality. And they jumped on the bandwagon early enough to get the infrastructure to handle that stuff.
Yep.
And that's the next logical progression for chip production. There's going to have to be more factories. It's just that simple, because the factories that are there can't, especially when you get somebody like Apple who ties up, like Foxconn, they tie up a factory for 6 or 8 or 9 months,
Yep.
just making chips for them. So suddenly that factory's out of production, making whatever chips they were making prior to that happening. Because I was even trying to get some. I'm doing a project at the moment. I was using some of the old 888 timer chips, which are one of the most used chips in the world. Like, they're in everything. They're one of the most. Triple. Not say 888. That's a racing team. Yeah, 555 timer chips. And I went to JCar, because they used to have boxes of them.
Yeah.
I went to JCar to buy like 3. Nah.
No?
I went to, the JCar online. I thought I'll order them from there. No. I went to RT online, and no. Wheeltronics had some, so I got some from there. And other than that, the only ones I could get were like generic, no-name eBay specials.
Oh.
It's like they're just one of the most common chips in the world have disappeared because
They even used it in the most useful device in the universe.
They're in almost anything that's got a sequence or a pattern. They're being used in. Like, that's just what they're for. Whether it's really cheap Christmas lights, whether it's multi-million-dollar lighting displays, they all use the chip because it's such a versatile chip.
Yep.
But it's not. You just can't get them at the moment. So it's quite strange thinking that. I guess we're so used to the concept of just it being there.
Yeah.
I need that component. It's the whole, what do they call it? What do they call it? Start ordering or something. It's like literally you don't order a component till you need it, and then when you need it, you get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's not a thing anymore. You order a component 6 months before you need it now.
Yeah. Just in time.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, just in time component ordering or delivery. That doesn't happen now.
No.
Even simple stuff. Well, I say simple stuff like batteries that are, in technology standpoint, a very simple thing. Nothing special. Even those are 6, 8, 12 months back ordered in some cases.
Yep.
Just because, one step somewhere along the way got postponed and the entire thing's been held up.
Yep.
So it's interesting times. Well, I guess quickly, Microsoft's been spruiking the whole, hey, you need to use Office 365 because it's good.
Yep.
And by the way, passwords are bad. Well, Microsoft just had a password attack
Oh.
on Office 365 customers. So if you're an Office 365 customer in the US or using the US Office version of Office 365, they've been attacked with what they're calling a password spray attack, where attackers try to access many accounts with commonly used password.
They're doing that with Coinbase at the moment too.
Mm.
I found out today that's how an account was created in one of my email addresses that I never used on any of those sites.
Okay.
It said, hi, you've just signed up here. Please click here to activate it. And I did, thinking it was for my current account. I was like, hang on. No, it's not. So I contacted them and they deleted it, but they've been hit because what they're doing is they're sending out hundreds of thousands of signups and recording which ones say, sorry, this account already exists. Then they know that email address is valid for Coinbase crypto.
Yep.
So they send a phishing email to that email account to say, "Hey, click here to secure your Coinbase or whatever," and it hacks their stuff.
Yeah. I've been having, and a lot of the time it's actually an
It
official,
was the one that I got was official, but it was
yeah,
for an address that I didn't use on that site.
yeah.
So it's no good to them because they know that the account didn't already exist.
Well, I've had
That's not what they
I've had
want.
the same thing with Mojang over the last few days.
Oh,
I've
right.
had Mojang account reset passwords being sent saying, "Did you request a reset?" So they must be doing the same thing with Mojang at the moment.
Yeah, actually, now you think of it, there was something else I got just in the last week, and it said you created a new account or something. Click here to verify it, and I was like, no, I didn't. I'll
Mm.
just delete that.
So yeah, so basically that's what they're doing pretty much, and then they're targeting it and logging in and compromising it and getting all your information. But the thing I found funny about this whole story is they're like, the headline is Microsoft recommend you turn on multi-factor authentication. Now, it was only last week we covered a story how Microsoft is getting rid of passwords and multi-factor authentication. And yet today they've come out and said that we recommend you change your password and you enable multi-factor authentication.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hang on. So if multi-factor authentication and passwords is not secure, how is no passwords much more secure? No. But yeah, so if you've got a Windows 365 account, just check to make sure there hasn't been any weird activity on there. There are ways you can go check the log, see who the last person to log in and location and stuff, but
Yep.
It's easy enough to check if something seems to be disturbed. I guess the only upside to that is unless it's a corporate account or something really, really lucky, the chances of there being any sort of valuable data kept in there is pretty slim.
Yeah.
So
That's it for me. How about you?
just quickly, Facebook sends a cease and desist letter. English is hard. Cease and desist letter asking for unfollow everything to be scrapped. Now I don't know a lot about them. Maybe you know more than I do. Have heard about this a little bit, and from what I understand, it's basically a quick way to clean up your feed. You can unfollow friends or groups or pages that you don't interact with that often.
Yeah.
And sort of a bulk, I guess, a reverse bulk spam tool that you delete stuff you don't want.
Yeah.
But basically, Unfollow Everything creator Lewis Buckley tweeted on Thursday that he's received a cease and desist letter from Facebook's lawyers. I love the way this is worded too. Tweeted on Thursday that he received a cease and desist letter from Facebook's lawyers requesting for his browser extension to be taken down. Now, in quotes, I received a cease and desist order from Facebook's lawyers asking for a browser extension to be taken down. It's like, why didn't you just either put that first bit in quotes or get rid of the second? Like, you've literally just said the same thing twice.
Yeah.
They told me I've been banned from Facebook for life because I make Unfollow Everything. Unfollow Everything is a browser extension that allows users to delete their news feeds while unfollowing their friends, groups, and pages. The browser extension was created to help Facebook users spend less time on social media. I received a cease and desist letter shortly after being banned. He's also written a more detailed response to cease and desist letter ban.
There's not really much point. I mean, it's not like they delete your account off the server after you unfollow and everything.
No.
If you close your Facebook account, it's still there. You can just open it again later or recreate it and it'll still be the same. So,
but it doesn't even delete your account so much as it's just deletes people you don't want to follow. And
yeah, the unfollow, yeah. It unfollows everybody and everything in your account. You should probably want to do just before you delete your account.
Yeah,
but I don't know why that should be a misuse of Facebook's stuff when it's just the thing that's, instead of you going unfriend, yes, unfriend, yes, unfollow, yes, unlike, yes, it just goes vroom and does it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, but it just goes to show the power trip that Facebook's on.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like
And
Donald
it's
Trump.
still up in the Chrome store.
Yeah, you can install it on Chrome. You can install it on Android. You just can't. You can't. It won't. From what I understand, it just doesn't work in Facebook now, or it does work partly, or they've broken some of the functionality or something. It's just Facebook's just being Facebook. Like, Donald Trump's is still trying to get his account reinstated.
And Twitter too, isn't
and
he?
Twitter, yeah. I think he's back on he's back on Instagram or something now.
All right. Tech
So,
company said no.
Yeah, it's strange. But yeah, there's not a heck of a lot going on. I'd like to thank our Patreons as well for their support. It does help out, guys. Thanks a lot for that. And we didn't spruik at this show, but you know where to find us. The same place it's been for the last 8 years or whatever it's been. However long. That's been more than that. What did I work out the other day? I can't remember now. It was 9 years or something I've been with them. I don't know.
Wow.
Something like that. But no, it does help, guys. The few, not that we get a lot, but the few that we do get make a big difference to help us keeping the show running. And and I'll shout out to I knew I was going to do that as soon as I said it. I've forgotten his name. Aussie, you know who you are. I can't think of his name at the moment. But he hit me up on Discord and have a chat earlier. So and if you do see us online, and we do have an ATH Discord group. If you want to get on Aussie Tech Edge, you can jump online there and hit us up there. And when we're online, feel free to have a chat or send us a message, and we'll get
Harass
to it.
Will.
Yeah, I like all forms of harassment. I'm not fussy.
You're not discriminatory in that.
No, I don't care at all. I'll take any sort of attention I can get.
Thanks for listening to the Aussie Tech Head Show. We can be found at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon, and Coffee. Email us will or warlock at aussietechheads.com.au and go to aussietechradio.com. 24/7 playback of tech-related shows. See you next time.
See ya. Bye.